So Mike Leach gave an all-timer introductory press conference, and I have put it together for you. And I'm going to show it to you after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You got to help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And Mike Leach gave an introductory press conference as he is the new head coach for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. The presser lasted 42 minutes. He answered questions from his class that he taught on insurgency to what his offense is designed to do, to his thoughts on, yes, the Bulldogs mascot. Told some great stories, and if you really think about this as stand-up as much as him answering questions and just being the great storyteller and head coach that he is, you're going to get out of this what I got out of this, which is just joy. And I have distilled it into what I think are the best 12 minutes, as this, you'll know, is a Mike Leach-friendly channel. All right, here it is.
Hey, Mike. Tyler Horka, Jackson Clarion Ledger. Your offenses at Tech and Washington State obviously are, have had a lot of success and are there's something built in a way that folks around here probably have never seen. How feasible is it to, right away implement an offense like that here, given the players that are here and the culture that's already been in place?
I'll be able to give you a pretty good, a better answer after about a week of spring. We've always been able to install it fast. I don't think it'll be perfect within a week, but I think it'll be fairly sharp within 2 weeks. And but it's not going to be perfect. I mean, that's why we're in this. You're always grinding away. But as far as seeing our offense, and we've been doing it for a long time, but a lot of NFL teams have adopted it. If you look at the Patriots, the Saints, the Packers. And generally speaking, the last most of the Super Bowls for the last 8-10 years have had some air raid concepts in it. We originally drew it from the wishbone, and offensively, 2 objectives that we're trying to achieve is we want to attack as much space as possible, and we want to put it in all the skill positions' hands, and so the thought very simply, the more people the defense has to keep track of over a bigger area, the better our chances are. And so I don't know if as you guys come up with a good play to do that, maybe we'll cut one of the ones we got and we'll add yours, because we do that from time to time. So I taught a class last year, and that was a blast. Taught a class with Senator Mike Baumgartner, state senator there in the state of Washington, who went to Harvard and used to work for the State Department, and he taught some courses on insurgency and counterinsurgency, and would come around practice all the time, sit through our meetings. I knew he was dedicated when sit through those film meetings where. Although necessary, I myself was trying to sort out a way to make it go as fast as I could. And so he says, football and insurgency and counterinsurgency have a lot of similarities. So we taught a class, and it was ridiculously exciting for me, because what our format was Mike would talk about some of the principles of insurgency, counterinsurgency, then I'd talk about football, and here'd be football. All right, we're playing so-and-so. We got to fortify this. We got to take care of that. Can't let them attack here. We got to get them here. Once we get them moving here, we're going here. Boom, and so from my position, my part was relatively easy. Then we'd have guest speakers in there, and like we had a guy that was instrumental in busting the shoe bomber and the Boston Marathon bomber from Homeland Security. We had a Air Force survival specialist, people that had been in Afghanistan. And so we really had some guys, and what would happen, what I liked about the class, I'd learn a lot. So I'd sit there And, my part, like, all right, as soon as my part's over, then I can, it'll get interesting because I can hear something. Well, and it was just captivating, and I'd leave with more questions and answers, listening to the quality guys that came and spoke there. We had some of the past quarterbacks come and talk. Jack Thompson, who is a true hero of mine, was one of them. You might remember him as the throwing Samoan. And Jack was one of the very first Island guys to ever play college football, and just a truly outstanding figure and example there at Washington State. His friendship I've always valued, but he gave just a really compelling speech about being a guy, from a different culture and a different place, and how he integrated himself in the state of Washington with kind of the rural setting and all that stuff. And you meet so many great people, and you can learn something from anybody, and these were people where you learn what to do rather than what not to do. So I thought it was very good. Well, I think first of all, they've done a lot of good things recruiting here. I mean, they've really done a fine job, I think, recruiting here over the years. So there's going to be a lot of things that we need to maintain. I mean, and maintain and continue, and then elevate as we see opportunities. I think that I think the most important element of recruiting is persistence and relationships, and I think that those type of people are the ones that are the best recruiters, and I think that I've been all over the country, and a guy that really wants to recruit and it's meaningful and that has a sincere message, I think they can recruit. But then also, with that said, I think it's important that we have some people that know the ropes around the area too. So I would say a combination of all of it. I mean, first and foremost, I want good quality people that are dedicated recruiters, but then and then a mixture of we've got to have some really strong guys, X and O wise on the field, discipline, focus, and that pulls a unit together. The most important thing is what you can do together. I mean, sometimes people remember a key individual here, a key individual there, but it's that's one thing I really felt like Gardner Minshew did year before last when we won 11 games, a place where they didn't think you could go to a bowl, but we won 11, and he was a really good example of a guy that could elevate the people around him, and then and as that happens, everybody's stronger. I did experience one disappointment when I came to Mississippi State, and that would be that last night I wanted to go down memory lane to that old visitors' locker room, the artistry of which I truly admire. I mean that sincerely. Maybe my taste and view on football and sports are a little different than others, but the old visitors' locker room at Mississippi State was literally a work of art, and now it's an office. So, and as far as I'm concerned, that's sacred ground, because you always go to the visitors' locker room, and obviously if you're the home team, you want to have the most advantageous visitors' locker room you possibly can, and nowadays in these kinder and gentler days, it was utterly outstanding. And I mean, just the thought that went into it, the malicious intent, the hey, it's tough to play on the road attitude. Yep, and I counted them, and if I recall right, 37 nails in a concrete block, 2 toilets with no seats or no lids in the middle, 1 roll of toilet paper in the middle. I could not wait to go, and I was convinced that here I'd have the opportunity to enjoy the fruits of a locker room of that magnitude, and I am disappointed that. Well, because, the thing with football, there's all these memories. There's stuff you remember, you see, you remember all your life, and that's one of them. And then of course we can get into SMU's locker room, and that's an entirely other story. But and I'm sure we'll have time to talk about that at some point. But no, I was slightly disappointed that the greatest visitors locker room of all time is no more. Well, we'll look at the transfer portal. The transfer portal is a new resource nowadays. You know, I mean, it's both positive and negative, but it can be a resource, and I don't think it can be ignored really for any position. I mean, football is a competitive sport, and you're always trying to upgrade. And of course, everybody, you know, regardless of position, you know, remembers somebody that played or from whenever. But you know, if you can upgrade, I mean, that's the point of a team game. And I know a lot of guys have aspirations to play in the National Football League and stuff like that. You're in a competitive situation, and for the overall good of the entire Mississippi State family, anywhere we can upgrade, if we can find somebody that can do that, that's not a resource that can be ignored. So, yeah, we'll look at the portal and see what's out there in all positions. And from my experience, a lot of times the guys, you know, on the portal, they're trying to get an opportunity to play. You know, maybe they're lower in the depth chart, but other times, you know, sometimes it's a fit situation. And so I don't think it can be ignored. It's now a factor in recruiting and kind of a reality of our business. And if you can upgrade from the portal, you need to do it. I've known Lane for a long time. I've actually known Lane when he was a GA for Pete Carroll. And I've always liked Lane. And I know that, you know, you're not supposed to like anything from Ole Miss, but, you know, I've always liked him, kind of an entertaining guy. And then, you know, all those guys I know, you know, Nick and Jimbo, and this conference is loaded with quality coaches. That's what makes it exciting. But the fact of the matter is I came from a conference loaded with quality coaches too, not to diminish either conference. You know, I mean, the resources vary, the opportunities vary, but you know, I like playing against crummy coaches better than really good ones. But you know, as I look around these conferences, there's no hiding from good coaches. You're going to run into a good coach, and you're going to have to fight like crazy at every conference you're in with regard to the quality of some of these coaches. Yeah, you don't want to get bit by him, I'll tell you that. You see that? That's the dog version of like a leather jacket. He'd be like the Fonzie of Bulldogs, and so you don't mess with him. I'll tell you this, I mean, you know, they call them Bulldogs for a reason, and you know, and they're built for combat, and you know, and I know a lot of you know, young kids a lot of times start out afraid of them, maybe for good reason, and so and I know I'm scared of this one, so I'm glad I represent him.